Have you ever wondered why every relationship you enter seems to follow the same destructive pattern? Why you keep attracting the wrong people? Or why even your best connections eventually crumble into disappointment and pain? What if I told you that the real saboteur of your love life isn't bad luck, timing, or even the people you choose, but something far more sinister hiding in the depths of your own psyche? Today, we're diving deep into Carl Jung's revolutionary discovery about the shadow self and how this invisible force is systematically destroying every chance you have at lasting love. This isn't just another relationship advice video. This is psychological surgery that will expose the hidden tumor in your romantic life. But before we begin this journey into the darkness of your unconscious mind, I need you to do something right now. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because what you're about to discover will fundamentally change how you see yourself and every relationship you've ever had. This knowledge is so powerful that Jung himself warned it could be dangerous in the wrong hands. The statistics are staggering. 50% of marriages end in divorce, 70% of people report feeling unsatisfied in their relationships, and the average person goes through 7 serious relationships before finding the one. But here's what the relationship gurus won't tell you. None of these failures are accidents. They're all orchestrated by the same psychological puppet master that Jung called the shadow. Let me paint you a picture that might feel uncomfortably familiar. You meet someone amazing. They seem perfect, everything clicks, and you think, finally, this is it. The early days are intoxicating, filled with passion and connection, but slowly, almost imperceptibly, things begin to shift. You start noticing flaws, feeling irritated by things that once seemed charming. Arguments begin over seemingly trivial matters, and before you know it, you're either walking away or being left behind, wondering what went wrong. Sound familiar? That's your shadow at work, and it's been sabotaging your relationships since day one. Carl Jung, the legendary Swiss psychiatrist who mapped the depths of human consciousness, discovered that we all carry within us a hidden aspect of our personality, a collection of traits, desires, and impulses that we've rejected, denied, or simply never acknowledged. This is your shadow, and it's far more powerful than you realize. The shadow doesn't just influence your behavior, it controls it. Every time you claim you don't have a type while consistently dating the same kind of person, that's your shadow. Choosing. Every time you push away someone who's genuinely good for you because they feel boring or too nice, that's your shadow protecting itself. Every time you find yourself in the same toxic dynamics you swore you'd never repeat, that's your shadow recreating familiar patterns. But here's where it gets really disturbing. And stay with me, because this next part is crucial to understanding why your relationships keep failing. Your shadow doesn't just attract the wrong people, it actively repels the right ones. Jung discovered something that will shock you. We don't fall in love with people. We fall in love with projections. When you meet someone and feel that instant spark, that undeniable chemistry, you're not actually responding to who they are. You're responding to how they reflect your own unconscious contents back to you. This is called psychological projection, and it's the foundation of every romantic attraction you've ever felt. Here's how the shadow hijacks your love life through projection. The traits you've rejected in yourself, maybe you've denied your own neediness, your anger, your vulnerability, or your wild side. These rejected parts of you are looking for expression. When you meet someone who embodies these shadow qualities, your unconscious mind recognizes them immediately. This recognition creates what feels like chemistry, compatibility, or fate. But here's the cruel twist. If you haven't integrated your shadow, if you haven't owned and accepted these rejected parts of yourself, the very qualities that attracted you will eventually repel you. The passionate person becomes too intense. The free spirit becomes irresponsible. The caring person becomes clingy. You're literally falling in love with your own shadow and then rejecting it when it shows up in another person. This is why your relationships follow such predictable patterns. You're not actually dating different people. You're dating different versions of your own unintegrated shadow. And since you haven't done the work to accept and integrate these aspects of yourself, you keep rejecting them in others, ensuring that every relationship ends in the same cycle of attraction, disillusionment, and separation. If this is resonating with you, if you're starting to see the pattern, drop a comment below with the word shadow so I know you're following along with this revelation. Let me tell you about Sarah, a successful marketing executive who came to therapy confused about her dating patterns. She kept attracting what she called unavailable men, artists, musicians, entrepreneurs who were passionate about their work but seemingly incapable of commitment. Sarah prided herself on being practical, organized, and relationship-focused. She couldn't understand why she kept choosing these irresponsible partners. Through shadow work, Sarah discovered something profound. The organized, practical person she showed the world was only half the story. Deep inside, she carried a rejected, creative, spontaneous side that she'd abandoned in childhood when her parents constantly criticized her for being too dreamy and impractical. Her shadow contained all the artistic passion and free-spirited energy she'd learned to suppress. Her unconscious mind was using these unavailable men to experience her own rejected creativity and spontaneity vicariously. But because she hadn't integrated these aspects of herself, she would inevitably become frustrated with their irresponsibility, which was really her own disowned spontaneity reflecting back at her. She was rejecting in them what she'd already rejected in herself. This is the shadow's cruelest joke. It makes you seek in others what you've denied in yourself, then makes you hate what you've found. The very thing you're unconsciously looking for becomes the thing that drives you away. This isn't just individual neurosis. This is the fundamental tragedy of human relationships when we remain unconscious of our shadow. The solution isn't to stop projecting. That's impossible. Jung said projection is a natural psychological function. The solution is to become conscious of what you're projecting and why. But projection is just one way your shadow destroys relationships. There's something even more insidious happening, and most people never see it coming. Your shadow doesn't just influence who you choose, it influences how you behave once you're in a relationship. And this is where things get really dark. Every relationship becomes a battleground between your conscious intentions and your shadow's agenda. Consciously, you want love, connection, and intimacy. You want to be a good partner, to support and cherish the person you're with. But your shadow has different plans. Your shadow wants to protect you from the vulnerability that real intimacy requires. It wants to maintain control, avoid abandonment, and keep you safe from the very thing you consciously desire most. So your shadow creates what Jung called compensation. For every conscious desire you have, your shadow generates an equal and opposite unconscious impulse. You want to be loving, so your shadow makes you critical. You want to be supportive, so your shadow makes you competitive. You want to be faithful, so your shadow creates inappropriate attractions. You want to communicate openly, so your shadow makes you shut down or explode. This is why you sometimes find yourself doing and saying things in relationships that you genuinely don't understand. I don't know why I said that. I don't know why I acted that way. That's not who I am. Yes, it is. It's who your shadow is, and your shadow is part of you whether you acknowledge it or not. The most tragic part is that your partner's shadow is doing the same thing. So you have 4 people in every relationship, 2 conscious egos trying to love each other, and 2 unconscious shadows trying to protect themselves from that love. Guess which pair usually wins? Here's what makes this even more complicated. Your shadow learns. Every relationship that ends, every heart that gets broken, every betrayal or abandonment you experience teaches your shadow new ways to protect you. It develops increasingly sophisticated defense mechanisms, more subtle forms of sabotage, and more convincing reasons why intimacy is dangerous. Maybe your shadow learned to create chaos whenever things get too peaceful because chaos feels more familiar than happiness. Maybe it learned to find fault with your partner right before they might leave, giving you a sense of control over the inevitable. Maybe it learned to keep one foot out the door at all times, maintaining emotional escape routes even in your closest relationships. This is why each failed relationship seems to make the next one harder, not easier. You're not just carrying your own wounds, you're carrying your shadow's evolving strategy to prevent future wounds. But what your shadow doesn't understand is that in protecting you from pain, it's also protecting you from love. Jung believed that the shadow contains not just our rejected negative traits, but also our rejected positive ones. Maybe you've disowned your own lovability, your capacity for joy, your ability to trust. Maybe your shadow carries all the parts of you that could create the very love you're seeking. But these parts remain inaccessible because they're too threatening to your familiar identity. If you're starting to recognize your own shadow patterns, take a moment right now to reflect on this question. What positive qualities do you admire in others but struggle to see in yourself? Your answer might reveal the golden parts of your shadow that could transform your relationships if you dared to reclaim them. Now, you might be thinking, this is all very dark and psychological. But how do I actually fix this? How do I stop my shadow from sabotaging my relationships? And that's exactly the right question to ask, but prepare yourself for an answer that might challenge everything you believe about how relationships work. The solution isn't to find the right person, it's to become the right person. And becoming the right person means integrating your shadow, which Jung called individuation. This is the process of making the unconscious conscious, of owning and accepting the rejected parts of yourself so they stop controlling you from the darkness. Shadow integration isn't about becoming a better person in the conventional sense. It's about becoming a whole person. It's about acknowledging that you contain multitudes, light and dark, love and hate, generosity and selfishness, wisdom and foolishness. The goal isn't to eliminate your shadow, it's to develop a conscious relationship with it. Here's what shadow integration looks like in practice. Instead of judging your partner for being too emotional, you ask yourself, what emotions am I avoiding in myself? Instead of being frustrated with their neediness, you explore, how do I reject my own needs? Instead of criticizing their irresponsibility, you investigate, where do I deny my own desire for freedom? Every criticism you have of your partner is a window into your own shadow. Every quality that triggers you in others exists somewhere within you, waiting to be acknowledged and integrated. This doesn't mean you have to accept bad behavior or stay in unhealthy relationships. It means you stop using others as scapegoats for your own unintegrated shadow material. But here's where most people get stuck. And it's crucial that you understand this next part if you want to break free from the cycle of relationship failure. Shadow work isn't a destination. It's a lifelong practice. There's no point where you'll have completed your shadow work and suddenly become immune to projection and unconscious patterns. The goal is consciousness, not perfection. This means that healthy relationships aren't about finding someone who doesn't trigger your shadow. They're about finding someone who's willing to do shadow work alongside you. They're about creating a relationship dynamic where both people are committed to recognizing their projections, owning their triggers, and supporting each other's individuation process. Jung called this type of relationship conscious love, and It's fundamentally different from the unconscious projective love that most people experience. In conscious love, you're not trying to complete yourself through another person. You're not looking for someone to fill your voids or embody your disowned shadow qualities. You're relating to another whole person from your own wholeness. This is why Jung famously said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." In unconscious relationships, people resist transformation. They want their partner to change while they remain the same. In conscious relationships, both people expect to be transformed by the encounter with the other. But conscious love requires something that most people aren't willing to give: the death of their romantic fantasies. You have to let go of the dream of effortless compatibility, perfect understanding, and fairy tale romance. You have to embrace the reality that love is work, not the kind of work that feels like drudgery, but the kind of work that leads to growth, awareness, and authentic intimacy. Let me share with you the most powerful shadow work exercise Jung ever developed, and I want you to really pay attention here because this could change your entire relationship trajectory. It's called active imagination, and it involves dialoguing directly with your shadow as if it were a separate person. Find a quiet space and imagine your shadow sitting across from you. Give it a face, a voice, a personality. Then ask it directly, "How are you sabotaging my relationships?" Listen to what comes up without judgment or censorship. Your shadow might tell you that it's protecting you from abandonment by pushing people away first. It might reveal that it's trying to maintain control by creating chaos. It might admit that it's afraid of your own capacity for love. The key is to listen with curiosity rather than condemnation. Your shadow developed its strategies for good reasons, usually to protect you from childhood wounds or early traumas. Thank your shadow for its protection, but explain that its methods are no longer serving you. Negotiate with it. Find ways to meet its needs for safety and control while still allowing for intimacy and vulnerability. This isn't a one-time conversation. You'll need to maintain an ongoing dialogue with your shadow, especially when you notice familiar patterns emerging in your relationships. Instead of acting out unconsciously, you can check in with your shadow. What are you trying to protect me from right now? What do you need in order to feel safe enough to let me love and be loved? Remember, your shadow isn't your enemy. It's your unintegrated self trying to find expression. When you fight against it, you give it more power. When you embrace it consciously, you reclaim your power to choose how you show up in relationships. If you're committed to doing this shadow work, if you're ready to take responsibility for your own projections and patterns, comment below with, "I'm ready," so I know you're serious about transformation. As we reach the end of this journey into the shadow of love, I want you to understand something profound. Every relationship you've ever had has been perfect training for this moment of awakening. Every heartbreak, every disappointment, every pattern you've repeated has been your psyche's way of showing you what needs to be integrated, healed, and made conscious. Your failed relationships weren't failures. They were education. Your painful patterns weren't evidence of your brokenness. They were invitations to wholeness. Your shadow wasn't trying to destroy your chance at love. It was trying to force you to develop a mature, conscious relationship with love itself. This is Jung's ultimate message about relationships. You cannot give what you do not have, and you cannot love another to the extent that you have not learned to love yourself, including the shadow aspects of yourself that you've been taught to reject. The person you're seeking is not out there waiting to complete you. The person you're seeking is within you, waiting to be integrated and made whole. True love begins with self-love, but not the superficial self-love of positive affirmations and feel-good mantras. I'm talking about the deep, revolutionary self-love that includes your darkness as well as your light, your wounds as well as your strengths, your shadow as well as your conscious ego. When you can love your own shadow, when you can embrace your own neediness, anger, vulnerability, wildness, and all the other rejected parts of yourself, you'll stop projecting these qualities onto others and then rejecting them. You'll stop using relationships as a battleground between your conscious desires and unconscious fears. You'll start relating to others from a place of wholeness rather than neediness. So here's my final challenge to you. Stop searching for love. Stop trying to find the right person, improve your dating profile, or learn better communication techniques. Instead, turn toward the one relationship that will determine the quality of all your other relationships, the relationship with yourself, including your shadow. Embrace this work. Do the inner archaeology. Dialogue with your rejected parts. Integrate your projections. Become whole. Because when you do, love won't be something you search for. It will be something you are.